Hello, welcome to your first Sensei Very homework. I don't want you to spend any longer than 30 minutes or so on this homework, or for that matter, on any of my homeworks, because you need to have life and you need to do other things. This is very important. In today's lesson, you would have plotted a graph, or your neighbour would have plotted a graph which looks a little bit like this. It's got a certain shape. We're going to think about its shape next lesson, and think about why it has that particular shape, but for homework, I'd like you to think about some other sorts of graph, which, on the face of it, might look like they are very different to this graph, that they have very different shapes. But there are some underlying similarities between the two, which we're going to think about next lesson. You need to do some thought for me in preparation for next lesson, and I need to see some written answers as well. I'll tell you what to do. So here are 4 graphs. They all represent what we can call the growth rates of particular organisms. I've not told you which sorts of organism each of these graphs relate to. I'd like you, please, to write down for me in your book what you think the organism which each graph is describing. I won't tell you what's on the x-axis and what's on the y-axis. I'll just tell you this is what's known as a growth curve or a growth rate. Can you then write down for me organisms which you think might grow according to a completely different sort of graph, which give a completely different growth curve or growth graph? Would you also be willing to suggest for me for any of the graphs which you've been talking about today, either the one which I've given you here, or the one which you've been thinking about in the question about organisms which grow according to a qualitatively different type of graph, what you think a sensible scale for the axes might be? The x-axis might be easy, the y-axis might require a bit more thought. So expect this homework to be difficult. I do, as a general habit, set difficult homeworks, but we shall think about your answers to these questions next lesson. Because these homeworks will be difficult, you might like to get together in groups and discuss the homeworks with each other, or set up a group chat, something along those lines. Thank you.